I never thought I would be that guy, the one whose life crumbled because of infidelity. My name is Jake, and I'm just an average guy in my 30s with a relatively normal life. I'm married to Rachel, a woman I thought I knew inside and out. We met in college and had been together for over a decade. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I genuinely believed we were solid. That is, until everything began to unravel. It started with small things, little changes in Rachel's behavior that I brushed off at first. She began coming home late from work more often, claiming that she was busy with projects. At the same time, she started taking her phone with her everywhere. I'd catch her texting or scrolling through social media, but she always had some excuse lined up. Just catching up with friends, she'd say, a hint of annoyance creeping into her voice like she was tired of my questioning. I wanted to trust her, but something about the way she acted raised flags. One night, I decided to surprise her with dinner. I prepared her favorite meal and set the table with candles, wanting to spark some romance in our relationship. Rachel came home 2 hours later than usual, and as she walked in, the look on her face was one of shock mixed with annoyance. Instead of being happy, she rolled her eyes and said, "Really, Jake? A romantic dinner on a weeknight? You know I'm exhausted." That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As I lay in bed, I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. She jumped out of bed to grab it, and I could see her face light up, something I hadn't seen in a while. My gut twisted at the sight. The next day, I decided to dig a little deeper. I knew Rachel well enough to know her passwords, so I logged into her social media. My heart raced as I searched through her messages. What I found made my blood run cold. Flirty texts exchanged with someone named Mark, a married coworker of hers. The messages were laden with suggestive language, and I felt my heart drop as I read through them. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, wrestling with the evidence in front of me. How could she do this to me? I confronted her that evening, my heart pounding in my chest as I approached the subject. "Rachel, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. She immediately sensed the gravity of the situation. "What's wrong, Jake?" she asked, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. I threw down my phone on the table, showing her the messages. "I saw the texts," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What the hell is going on?" Her reaction was immediate. She didn't even attempt to deny it. Instead, she launched into a series of excuses, claiming it was just harmless flirting and that she was bored with me. Rachel painted herself as the victim, saying I was too focused on work and had neglected her. Rather than take responsibility, she twisted it around like I was the reason she sought comfort with another man. The betrayal hit me like a sledgehammer. I felt anger swell inside me, mixed with disbelief. How could this be happening? I realized then that the woman I loved had been lying to me for months, and it shattered my heart into pieces. Her excuses were like daggers, each one cutting deeper as she spoke. For days, my emotions swung like a pendulum: rage, sadness, disbelief. I felt like I was losing my mind, grappling with the weight of her betrayal. I could see the life we built together slipping away, and that thought alone was unbearable. As my emotional turmoil simmered, I began to plot my revenge. I wanted her to feel every ounce of pain she had caused me. But how? I thought of Mark's wife, Lisa, who had no idea about the affair. I imagined how she would feel, and a twisted sense of satisfaction washed over me. She deserved to know the truth. I made my decision. I wasn't going to let Rachel's affair go unnoticed. I was going to expose them both. As the days passed, I developed a plan. I needed evidence that was concrete, something that would shock Lisa into action. I started collecting information, screenshots of their conversations, timestamps, everything I could find that would paint the picture of their affair. I wanted to ensure there was chaos, and I would be the one to unleash it. I felt an odd sense of empowerment in this decision. It was as if for the first time in a long while I was the one in control. Rachel had taken everything from me, but now I was going to take something back. I would show her that her actions had consequences. I had no idea what the aftermath of my plan would bring, but I knew I was ready to unleash chaos in their lives. I felt a mixture of anticipation and fear, but more than anything, I felt alive again. I had a mission now, and I was determined to see it through. What would happen next? That remained to be seen. The days that followed my confrontation with Rachel were filled with a storm of emotions, but I channeled that anger into my plan. I became like a detective, gathering evidence of the affair, tracking their interactions with a mix of bitterness and determination. My heart was heavy, but my resolve was steely. I knew I had to act carefully. I needed to ensure that everything I uncovered would not only reveal the truth, but would also lead to the maximum chaos I envisioned. As I dug deeper, I learned more about Mark. He was a charming guy, the type who could easily win anyone over with his charisma. I had met him a few times at office functions, and he seemed like a decent husband, always talking about his wife and kids. It made my blood boil to think that he was betraying the very family he bragged about. He was just another player in Rachel's twisted game. Late one night, while Rachel was out with her friends, I sifted through her texts again, looking for anything I might have missed. One message caught my eye, a photo of her and Mark at a bar, laughing and leaning in too close for comfort. The caption read, "Just a couple of coworkers enjoying a night out." I felt the anger bubble up inside me. I couldn't let this slide. Not only was she cheating on me, but she was flaunting it in my face. I saved the image and continued my research on Mark. I found out where he lived, and I even managed to get Lisa's social media information. It was almost too easy, which made me feel even more justified in my plan. I was on the verge of turning the tables, ready to strike at the heart of their deception. The following day, I contacted a close friend of mine, Ben. He had always been the calm voice of reason in my life, but I needed someone to bounce ideas off of who understood the gravity of my situation. When I explained everything to him, he looked at me with a mixture of concern and sympathy. "Jake, are you sure you want to go through with this?" he asked, his voice low. "I mean, it's not just Rachel you're going to hurt. Think about Lisa. She's innocent in all this." "I get that, but she deserves to know," I replied, my voice firm. "They both need to face the consequences of their actions. I can't just sit back and let Rachel get away with this." Ben sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're right, I just don't want you to regret this later." I appreciated his concern, but I felt too far gone. Rachel had shattered my trust. I couldn't let her continue living her life as if nothing had happened. I needed closure, and exposing her would be the catalyst for my healing. As I moved forward with my plan, I started to draft a message to Lisa. I wanted it to be direct, but I also didn't want to come across as vindictive. I crafted it carefully, deciding to be honest but respectful. "Hi Lisa, I hope you're doing well. I need to share something important with you regarding your husband, Mark. I believe it's vital that you know what's been happening." I paused, my heart racing. This was it. Before I hit send, I hesitated. A part of me wondered if I was making a mistake, if this would lead to irreversible consequences for everyone involved. But then I thought back to the betrayal that had turned my life upside down, and I felt a wave of determination wash over me again. With a deep breath, I pressed send. The next few days dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. I was anxious, waiting for Lisa's response. I tried to keep my mind busy, focusing on work and trying to keep things normal with Rachel. But every time she walked into the room, I felt the weight of her betrayal looming, like a dark cloud hanging over me. Finally, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was Lisa. My heart raced as I opened the message, my hands trembling. "Hi Jake, thank you for reaching out. Can we talk?" I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I quickly replied, suggesting we meet at a coffee shop that was conveniently located near both of our offices. I wanted to ensure I had a clear head when I faced the consequences of my actions. When the day came, I arrived early, my heart pounding in my chest. Lisa walked in, and I immediately recognized her from the few times I had seen her at office events. She looked composed, but there was a hint of anxiety in her eyes. We exchanged pleasantries, and I could sense the heaviness of the conversation that lay ahead. "Jake, I appreciate you wanting to tell me something, but I'm not sure what this is about," she said, her voice steady but tinged with worry. I took a deep breath and decided to lay it all out for her. "I don't want to hurt you, but I think you have a right to know that Rachel and Mark have been seeing each other." I Saw the texts and it's gone beyond just flirting. Her expression changed instantly, disbelief washing over her face. What, are you serious? I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. I can show you everything. I have screenshots, timestamps, all the evidence you need. As I shared the details with Lisa, I saw her composure start to crack. The look of shock turned to anger, and I could see the pain in her eyes. It was a hard thing to witness, knowing that I was the one bringing this news to her. But I reminded myself of why I was doing this. After my confession, Lisa sat in silence, processing the information. I can't believe this. Mark has always been such a good husband. I never thought, she trailed off, and I saw tears welling up in her eyes. As she collected herself, I could see the fire ignite within her. I need to confront him, she said, her voice steely. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me felt guilty for complicating her life, but the other part couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Rachel and Mark were about to face the consequences of their actions, and I would be there to witness it all unfold. Lisa stood up, determination etched on her face. Thank you for telling me. I won't forget this. I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions surging within me. I had done what I set out to do, but the reality of it was more complex than I anticipated. As Lisa walked out of the cafe, I realized that the chaos I had unleashed was just beginning. What would happen next? I couldn't wait to find out. After Lisa left the cafe, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I had just set off a bomb, and I was waiting to see the fallout. The weight of what I had done began to settle in, and I realized there was no turning back now. I had exposed Rachel's affair, and the consequences were bound to come crashing down. I returned home that evening, my mind racing with thoughts of what Lisa might say to Mark. I tried to act casual as I walked through the door, but Rachel immediately sensed something was off. Hey, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's wrong? She asked, her brow furrowed in concern. Just a long day at work, I replied, forcing a smile. I was determined to keep my composure until the storm hit. I didn't want her to suspect anything, at least not yet. Rachel started babbling about her day, and I found it hard to listen. My mind was elsewhere, envisioning the confrontation that was likely happening between Lisa and Mark right that moment. I could almost picture Mark's face when Lisa confronted him with the evidence. I imagined the shock, the anger, and perhaps the panic as he scrambled to cover his tracks. Around midnight, unable to sleep, I grabbed my phone and checked for any updates. My heart raced as I saw a new message from Lisa. Jake, I confronted Mark. He denied everything at first, but then he confessed. I can't believe this is happening. My heart sank for Lisa, but a surge of exhilaration coursed through me. I realized that the chaos I had set in motion was very real. I quickly typed a response offering her my support. I'm so sorry, Lisa. If you need to talk or anything, I'm here for you. After sending the message, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was not only avenging my own heartbreak, but I was also helping someone else who had been wronged. It felt weirdly empowering, like I had taken back some control over my life. The next day, I learned that the chaos was just beginning. Lisa reached out to me again, asking if we could meet. I need to talk about what comes next, she wrote. I agreed, not knowing what to expect but feeling compelled to help her navigate the emotional minefield that lay ahead. When we met again at the same cafe, Lisa looked different. She was more composed, but there was a fire in her eyes that hadn't been there before. I'm done, Jake. I'm done with Mark. I can't believe I wasted so many years on him, she said, her voice strong but still shaky. I understand. It's a tough situation, I replied, trying to offer sympathy while still grappling with my own emotions over Rachel. Lisa leaned in closer, her expression serious. I'm going to file for divorce. There's no way I can stay with someone who'd do this to me. I want to confront Rachel and tell her exactly how I feel about the betrayal. She deserves to know that I know. I felt a rush of mixed emotions. On one hand, I understood Lisa's need for closure and revenge. On the other hand, I wasn't sure if that confrontation would have the intended effect. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Confronting her could lead to more chaos. I don't care, she replied fiercely. She needs to feel the pain she inflicted on me. I want her to know that I won't stand for it. In that moment, I found myself agreeing with her. Rachel had taken away so much from me, and I had no idea how she would react when she learned that her betrayal had come back to haunt her. I couldn't wait to see the look on her face when Lisa confronted her. As we talked, Lisa and I began to form a strange alliance, both of us bonded by betrayal and loss. We discussed the logistics of her confrontation, and I offered to help her prepare. We agreed to meet again that weekend, where she would face Rachel and I would be there to witness it all. As the days passed, the anticipation felt electric. I couldn't focus on anything else. I found myself daydreaming about Rachel's reaction, how she would try to twist the situation in her favor and what lies she might tell to save face. In the back of my mind, though, I also felt a flicker of guilt. Was I becoming a monster in pursuit of vengeance? Then, Friday rolled around, and I could feel the tension in the air. Lisa and I met again to finalize our plans. She was nervous but determined. I've been thinking about what I want to say to Rachel. I want her to understand how deeply she's hurt me and how I won't let her get away with it, Lisa confessed, her voice steady. We went through the details and I offered my support. You've got this, Lisa. Just remember, she'll probably try to manipulate the situation. Stay strong. The thought of Rachel's potential denial and manipulation filled me with dread. I wanted to shield Lisa from the pain of Rachel's lies, but I also knew that this confrontation was necessary for both of us. As the weekend approached, I found myself feeling like I was on the brink of something monumental. I would witness the culmination of my revenge plan, the moment when Rachel would be forced to confront the choices she had made. I was anxious but also eager, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. The day of the confrontation arrived, and I was filled with a sense of anticipation that was almost intoxicating. As I waited for Lisa to arrive, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had led me to this point. I had never imagined I'd be part of a showdown like this, but here I was, ready to face the consequences of my actions. When Lisa finally arrived, she looked determined. We exchanged a glance, and I knew we were both in this together. "Let's do this," she said, her voice steady. As we headed toward Rachel's apartment, I felt my heart pound in my chest. This was it, the moment everything would change. Would Rachel take responsibility, or would she crumble under the weight of the truth? Whatever happened next, I knew it wouldn't just affect Rachel and Mark. It would change everything for Lisa and me as well. The chaos was about to unfold, and I was ready to see it through to the end. As we approached Rachel's apartment, the tension was palpable. The air felt thick with anticipation, and I couldn't deny the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Part of me wanted to turn back, to retreat from the impending chaos, but I knew that wasn't an option. I had already set this in motion, and now it was time to see it through. Lisa and I stood in front of the door, and I could see her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the doorbell. "You ready?" I asked, trying to gauge her state of mind. She nodded, determination etched on her face. "I have to do this. She needs to know the truth." Taking a deep breath, Lisa pressed the doorbell, and within moments we heard footsteps approaching. I felt my heart race as Rachel opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion in an instant. "Jake, what are you doing here?" she asked, her brow furrowing as she glanced at Lisa, who stood resolutely beside me. "Rachel, we need to talk," I said, trying to sound calm despite the storm of emotions swirling inside me. Rachel's eyes darted between us, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with a mix of curiosity and anxiety. Without waiting for a response, Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady and unwavering. "Rachel, I'm Lisa, Mark's wife. We need to talk about what's been happening between you and my husband." Rachel's face instantly paled, and I could see the realization dawn on her. "What? This is ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, her voice rising defensively. "I saw the texts, Rachel," I interjected, my heart pounding as I stepped closer. "You can't deny it any longer. You've been cheating on me with Mark." For a moment, Rachel looked stunned, and I could see her mind racing as she searched for an escape. "Jake, I can explain. It's not what you think," she stammered, her voice rising in panic. "No, Rachel. It is exactly what I think," I said, my voice firm. "You betrayed me. You let me believe everything was fine while you were hiding this affair." Lisa stood beside me, her eyes blazing with anger. You think you can just play with people's lives like this? Do you even care about the pain you've caused? Rachel glanced between us, her facade beginning to crack. I can't believe you're doing this, Jake. You're not hearing me out. Mark and I were just friends. I was feeling neglected. You were always so focused on work. The audacity of her excuse hit me like a slap in the face. So, it's my fault that you cheated. You think lying to me is acceptable because you felt neglected. I shot back, anger boiling over inside me. Lisa stepped forward again, her voice cutting through the tension. You're not a victim here, Rachel. You made a choice to betray your husband and my family. You need to own up to your actions. For a moment, Rachel remained silent, her eyes darting between us as if searching for a way out, but there was no escape. I had brought Lisa here for a reason, and now Rachel was facing the consequences of her betrayal. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't think it was a big deal. She finally cried, desperation creeping into her voice. It was just a fling, it didn't mean anything. I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. You think that makes it better? You chose to hurt me and Lisa. Do you even understand the pain you've caused? Rachel opened her mouth, but the words faltered as she realized there was no point in denying it any longer. The truth hung in the air like a heavy weight, and I could see her unraveling. Lisa, emboldened by the confrontation, continued. You have no idea what it feels like to be betrayed like this. To watch your marriage fall apart because of someone's selfish actions. Do you have any idea how much you've hurt us? Rachel's expression shifted from defensiveness to despair, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I remembered all the lies, the deceit, and the betrayal. I couldn't let myself feel too much empathy for her. She had made her choices, and now she had to face the music. I can't believe this is happening, Rachel muttered, tears welling up in her eyes. I thought we were happy, I thought. I was doing what I needed to do. You thought. I snapped. You didn't think about our marriage or the people you were hurting. You just acted on your impulses. The room was thick with tension, and I could see Rachel's facade crumbling. She had no defense left, and I knew this was the moment she had to confront the reality of her actions. Lisa took a deep breath, her voice softer now yet still firm. Rachel, I think it's clear that you need to take a long look at yourself and what you've done. This isn't just about you anymore. You need to consider how your choices impact others. Rachel sank onto the couch, her head in her hands, overwhelmed by the weight of everything crashing down around her. I messed up. I messed everything up, she murmured, the fight leaving her voice. I felt a mixture of emotions swirling within me, anger, betrayal, but also a sense of vindication. Rachel was finally facing the consequences of her actions, and I was no longer powerless in this situation. As the confrontation continued, I noticed that Lisa had softened her tone, almost as if she was trying to reach out to Rachel despite the pain she had caused. You have the chance to learn from this, Rachel. You need to figure out what you truly want and who you want to be going forward. Rachel looked up, her eyes red from crying. I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am anymore. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when Rachel might truly understand the gravity of her betrayal. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, not just for the sake of revenge, but so she could realize the damage she had caused in her life and Lisa's. The silence hung in the air, thick with unresolved emotions. I glanced at Lisa, who was watching Rachel with a mixture of sympathy and disbelief. I could see the fire of determination still simmering in Lisa's eyes, but I knew we both needed to take a step back and let Rachel process this. Take your time, Rachel, I said, my voice calmer now. You have a lot to think about. We'll be here if you want to talk. As we stood up to leave, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Rachel's world was crumbling, and I hoped this would be the wake-up call she desperately needed. Walking out of the apartment, I turned to Lisa. You did great in there. You really stood your ground. Thanks, Jake. I needed to say all of that. It wasn't just for me. It was for every woman who's been cheated on, she replied, her voice filled with resolve. As we walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of the fallout. Rachel's life was about to change drastically, and I had a front-row seat to the chaos I had unleashed. What would happen next? I could only imagine the whirlwind of emotions that would follow. But one thing was for sure, the truth was out and there was no going back now. The days following the confrontation felt surreal. I had unleashed chaos upon Rachel and Mark, and now I was left to witness the aftermath from the sidelines. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck unfold, and I couldn't look away. Rachel's behavior changed dramatically after that day. She was a shell of her former self, no longer the vibrant woman I had married. The days turned into a blur as she retreated into herself, and I could see the weight of her betrayal bearing down on her. I had never seen her so vulnerable, and a part of me felt conflicted. For the first time since I discovered her affair, I started to feel something resembling pity. I had reveled in the chaos initially, but now I watched her struggle through her shame and guilt. It was a hard sight to witness, especially since I had once loved her so deeply. One evening, as I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, I received a message from Lisa. "Can we meet again? I need to talk," she wrote. My heart raced as I realized that whatever she had to say was important. I agreed to meet her at a nearby park, wanting to offer my support. She arrived with a determined look on her face, and I could sense that she was struggling with her emotions just as I was. "Jake," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "I've thought a lot about everything. About Rachel, about Mark. I've decided to file for divorce. I can't stay in a marriage built on lies." "That's a brave decision, Lisa," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral even though I felt a sense of admiration for her resolve. "You deserve better than what he's given you." She nodded, her expression firm. "But it's not just about me. I've been thinking about Rachel too. It's easy to hate her right now, but I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's obviously struggling." I was taken aback by her empathy. "You know she hurt you deeply, right? She made choices that had a real impact on your life." "I know," she said, her voice steady, "but I can't hold on to that anger forever. It's toxic and I want to move on. I hope she figures herself out and learns from this, but I can't be a part of it anymore." I felt a wave of respect for Lisa. It was hard not to admire her grace in such a difficult situation. "That's incredibly mature of you, Lisa. I think you're doing the right thing." We talked more about her plans for the divorce, and I could see the relief in her eyes. She was taking control of her life, and it was inspiring to see. As we parted ways, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been part of something transformative, not just for myself, but for Lisa as well. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I felt a mix of emotions churning inside me. I had achieved what I set out to do by exposing Rachel's affair, but I hadn't anticipated the emotional toll it would take on me. Watching the fallout was proving to be more complicated than I had imagined. The following week, I found myself in a surreal situation. I received a call from Rachel. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Jake, can we talk?" she asked, her voice weak and strained. "About what?" I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. "I know I've hurt you, but I need to apologize. I've been doing a lot of thinking and I realize how selfish I've been," she said, her voice trembling. "Rachel, you made your choices. You lied to me and betrayed my trust. What else is there to say? I do want to lose everything. I'm scared, Jake. I've messed up so much and I don't know how to fix it," she said, her voice cracking. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to tell her exactly how much she had hurt me, while another part wanted to offer her comfort. "You have to face the consequences of your actions, Rachel. I can't be the one to fix this for you." "I know," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "I just thought you should know that I'm really sorry. I never meant for things to get this far. I didn't think about how my actions would affect you or Lisa." Her words hung in the air between us, and for a moment I felt the weight of her remorse. "What do you want from me?" I finally asked. "I just want you to understand that I realize how wrong I was. I know I can't take it back, but I want to try to make amends. I want to figure out how to be better for myself and for you," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was the one who had been wronged. "Rachel, it's going to take more than just words for you to make amends. You have to show that you're committed to change, but right now I need space to figure out my own feelings." "Okay," she said softly, a hint of resignation in her voice. "I understand. I just hope you can forgive me one day." I hung up the phone, feeling a whirlwind of emotions. I hadn't expected to hear such genuine remorse from Rachel, and it made everything feel even more complicated. As the week progressed, the fallout from Rachel's affair continued. I heard through mutual friends that Mark had moved out of their home, and rumors were swirling about his infidelity. It seemed that the web of lies was unraveling for everyone involved, and I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. But amidst all the chaos, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. I had made the decision to expose Rachel and Mark, but I hadn't anticipated the emotional toll it would take. The anger I had felt initially was gradually being replaced by a sense of acceptance. I hadn't just lost a marriage, I was on a path to healing, and that's what truly mattered. Then one day I received another message from Lisa. "Hey Jake, I wanted to let you know that I filed for divorce. It's official now." I felt a wave of relief for her. "Congratulations, Lisa. That's a huge step." "Thanks. I'm ready to move on, but I also want to make sure Rachel gets the help she needs. I really hope she can find a way to turn her life around," she replied. I couldn't believe how much Lisa had grown through this ordeal. "I admire your strength, Lisa. You're handling this with so much grace." "I'm just trying to focus on my own happiness now," she said, "and I hope you're doing the same." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that I was indeed starting to focus on my own happiness. I had endured the pain of betrayal, but I was beginning to see it as a catalyst for growth. As the dust began to settle, I found myself reflecting on everything I had learned from this experience. I had confronted betrayal head-on, and while it had been painful, it had also propelled me toward a new understanding of myself. I had gotten my revenge, but more importantly, I had gained clarity on what I wanted moving forward. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Rachel would still be a part of my life in some capacity, and I'd have to navigate that carefully. But I also felt empowered, ready to embrace whatever came next. I was determined to learn from this experience, both for myself and for anyone else who might find themselves in a similar situation. Life was too short to be defined by someone else's betrayal. I was ready to move on, but little did I know the chaos was far from over. The real test would come when Rachel decided to take a stand for herself. What would she do next? I could only imagine what lay ahead. The weeks rolled on, and I felt like I was walking a tightrope. Each day was a careful balancing act between my emotions and the remnants of my relationship with Rachel. The initial thrill of revenge had faded, leaving behind a complicated mix of satisfaction and confusion. I had taken a stand, but I still had to navigate the aftermath of Rachel's choices. Then one evening I received a call from Rachel. My heart sank as I saw her name light up my screen. I hesitated but ultimately picked up. "Jake," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" I felt a surge of anxiety. I had spent weeks trying to sort through my feelings, and the last thing I wanted was to be dragged back into her drama. But it was clear she was struggling, and part of me felt it was only fair to hear her out. "All right, Rachel, let's meet at the park." When we met, she looked different, haggard and worn down. It was clear that the fallout from her affair had taken its toll. As we sat on a bench, I could see she was wrestling with her emotions. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Jake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I realize how much I've hurt you, and I'm truly sorry." I studied her face, searching for sincerity in her words. "Rachel, you've said that before. I need to." "Oh, if you really mean it this time." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I do. I've lost everything, my marriage, my self-respect. I've been going to therapy, and I'm starting to understand why I made those choices. It was never about you," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I was running away from my own issues. I thought I could escape." Hearing her talk about therapy was a surprise. "You're really committed to figuring this out?" I asked, skepticism creeping into my voice. "I am," she replied earnestly. "I know I can't undo the past, but I want to learn from it. I want to be a better person, even if it's too late for us." There was a vulnerability in her tone that tugged at my heart. I had never seen Rachel like this, raw, honest, and stripped of her defenses. But I also knew that words were just words. "It's going to take a lot for me to trust you again, Rachel. You've hurt me deeply," I said, feeling the weight of all the emotions I had been holding back. "I understand, and I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I just want you to know that I'm trying to change." I want to be accountable, she said, her expression pleading. I let out a long breath, confused. Part of me wanted to believe her, to see her as someone who was genuinely remorseful, but the scars of betrayal were still fresh and I wasn't ready to jump back into anything. I appreciate you being honest with me, but I think we both need time and space to heal, I finally replied. Rachel nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. I get that. I just want you to know that I'm working on myself. I'm trying to learn from this, and I hope one day you can see that. As I turned to leave, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I didn't know what the future held for either of us, but I knew one thing. I was determined to focus on my own healing. A few days later, I got a text from Lisa. Hey Jake, can we meet? I have some news. My heart raced as I wondered what she had to say. When we met, Lisa looked more confident than I had seen her in. A while, I'm officially divorced, she said, a smile lighting up her face. It's done. Congratulations, Lisa, I exclaimed, genuinely happy for her. That's a huge step. Thanks, it feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I'm ready to start fresh, and I want you to know how grateful I am for your support through all of this, she said, her eyes sparkling. I'm glad I could be there for you. You deserve happiness, I replied, feeling proud of her strength. As we continued to talk, I could sense her excitement for new beginnings. She shared plans for moving forward, and I felt inspired by her resilience. I think we both have the chance to redefine our lives after everything that's happened, she said. I agree, I replied, feeling a sense of kinship with her. I'm ready to focus on my own happiness and healing as well. The weeks turned into months, and I found myself becoming more centered. I threw myself into my work, picked up new hobbies, and even started to reconnect with friends I hadn't seen in ages. I was determined to build a life that was independent of Rachel and her choices. I had moments of sadness when I thought about Rachel, but I also recognized that I wasn't responsible for her happiness anymore. She needed to find her own way, just as I was finding mine. Then one day, I ran into Rachel unexpectedly at a coffee shop. My heart raced as I saw her sitting alone, a book in her hands. She looked up and met my gaze, surprise flashing across her face. Jake, she said, her voice soft. Hi. Hi, I replied, feeling a mixture of warmth and apprehension. After an awkward pause, I gestured to the empty seat across from her. Mind if I join you? Of course, she said, her tone tentative. As we sat across from each other, I noticed a change in her demeanor. There was a calmness about her, a sense of peace that hadn't been there before. I've been working on myself like I told you, she said, her eyes searching mine for understanding. I've started to find some clarity. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope for her. That's good to hear, Rachel. I really hope you find what you're looking for. We talked for a while, sharing updates about our lives. I realized that while I'd never be able to forget what had happened, I was starting to let go of the bitterness. Rachel was still a part of my past, but I could see that we were both moving in different directions. As we finished our coffees, Rachel looked at me with sincerity. Thank you for the chance to talk. I know I messed up, but I hope we can find a way to move forward, even if it's just as friends. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. I think that's possible, but it'll take time. Time is what we need, she replied, a soft smile on her face. As I walked away from that coffee shop, I felt a sense of closure. Life had thrown me into chaos, but it had also led me down a path of growth and understanding. The journey wasn't easy, but I had learned valuable lessons about trust, betrayal, and the importance of focusing on my own happiness. It was a bittersweet end to a painful chapter, but I was ready to embrace the future. I was no longer defined by Rachel's choices or our past. I was ready to carve out my own path, and I knew I had the strength to do just that.